What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're starting a new series of podcasts that I decided to do. This one will be with my friend Dominic. He is also on with me today. We're going to be discussing mostly firearms. So we're going through the history of them, our personal opinions on them, how they work, things like that. There will also be a War Thunder podcast going on about history of the vehicles in game and how they perform in game. So I'm going to hope, and that will be with my friend Bruno. As you know, he's done a bunch of basically all of the War Thunder videos with me. So we'll go along and do this. But first of all, we got a firearms podcast to do today. We're doing the 1911, that legendary handgun.
This series will be known as the Gunslinger podcast, named after this Texan's hand.
The 1911 pistol is something of a legend. As its name suggests, it was originally developed in 1911, and despite not having changed much since then, it still remains a great weapon. Though produced primarily for military use, the experience of generations of veterans has meant that it has become widely used by civilians as well. In response, almost every major gun manufacturer in America today produces their own version of the pistol, each with their own adaptations and extra features. The Colt 1911 was formally adopted by the U.S. Army on March 29th of 1911, and then by the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps in 1913. By the beginning of World War I, more than 68,000 pistols were in service, and the huge demand for the new pistol led to contracts being granted to other manufacturers as well. The pistol performed so well during World War I that there were no huge changes made to its design. Some external changes were made to make the pistol easier to shoot for soldiers with smaller hands, and the sights were slightly altered, but the core mechanics of the pistol remained the same. Accordingly, all the 1911s produced to this date have interchangeable parts. World War II saw another huge expansion in demand for the 1911. During the war, some 1.9 million pistols were produced by several manufacturers. The wooden grip was replaced with a plastic one to save money, but apart from this, the pistol retained its original design. Despite already being 30 years old, the 1911 was still one of the best handguns available during World War II, and won many converts. British commando troops used them in preference over their standard issue weapons, as did South African Special Forces.
Following World War II, the 1911 continued in service for years to come. It was a standard sidearm for U.S. troops in Korea and Vietnam, and despite multiple trials of new pistols, it retained its position. It continued to be used in the First and Second Gulf War, mainly by Special Force troops who require as much possible power in their pistol. That said, by the 1970s, there was serious thought given into replacing the 1911. Types of conflict that U.S. were changing, and the desirability of NATO supply chains felt that a 9mm pistol would be the logical way to go forward. After extensive trials, the Beretta 92F was eventually chosen, now known in the U.S. military as the M9. The problem with the new pistol was stopping power. The 45 ACP round that the 1911 fired was significantly heavier, although slower. The 9mm was faster, but was lighter. This led to many troops complaining about the lack of stopping power, and many special forces were buy their own pistol or the money, or they get supplied with 1911s because that's what their preference. Additionally, United States Marines are using the M45A1, which is a highly modernized version of the 1911. Otherwise, all other branches of the military still use the M9.
Despite the M1911 having been largely retired from military use, it is still a very common sight in the U.S. today. The LAPD, SWAT teams, and the FBI continue to use the pistol, normally paired with a commander holster. Veterans coming home from war owed their life to the 1911, and this spurred its popularity in the civilian market. Today, it is one of the most common weapons among gun enthusiasts in the U.S. It is especially popular among concealed carry users because of the single-stack magazine, which makes concealing the pistol easier than in many other modern handguns. Additionally, the pistol is prized for its reliability. There's a strange irony in this because the very reasons that the military eventually retired it from service, its simple design, is precisely the same reason why many civilian users are now attracted to the pistol. Without the complex systems that characterize more modern pistols, the 1911 remains easy to maintain in the field. The 1911, despite being more than a century old, shows no signs of disappearing. The continued demand for the pistol, both amongst civilian users and the U.S. Special Forces, led to the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit developing a new generation of the pistol in 2004, designated the 1911 A2. In addition, there are now so many 1911s in use worldwide by everyone from the Greek army to Bangladesh security forces that the gun is likely to remain a common sight for years to come. Not bad for a weapon that originally saw service in World War One.
The 1911 uses for lack of better terms, recoil action. It's recoil, so that means the recoil from the bullet when it's fired, that ejects the round and cycles the action. Only got 7 round. Originally, it only had a 7 round magazine with single action. Now you can get it in that, or you can get double action. You can get 10 round magazines. You can get it in double stack. But the basic of it is gun goes off, the slide goes back, and at the same time slightly moves back and disconnects the barrel to load the next round. And otherwise, it's very, very simple. It does have a grip safety, so you have to grip it properly for it to go off. But the trigger you just pull the trigger back. That just moves a slight little metal tab, and that's all that pulls off and puts the hammer down, and then it fires. It's not really a whole lot to it. It is a very, very simple design. For those of you who don't know, Dom and I, we love the 1911 and hate Glocks.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just me personally, I don't like polymer frame or hammerless pistols. I've always preferred metal frame and hammered pistols, and more importantly, guns that are just simple and reliable. I will say that the 92.
Yeah, and some actual stopping power.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people say that they get rather hit by a few 9mm than a single 45. Because, well, it's like getting with a M16 instead of an AK. An AKs might not kill you, but it's going to hurt a lot more. A 5.56 will just put a hole in you, and that's really about it. The more accurate, but
less stopping power.
Exactly. Then, like a 9mm might be more accurate, but a 45 is going to be a lot more better at stopping. Although me personally, I probably would take a 357 semi-automatic instead of a 19 of regular one chambered in 45, because 357 honestly would just be better in every way.
Yeah, that's true. However, I do prefer 1911s though, because of the fact that you can conceal carry it even though it's chambered for a large round like 45.
You do know that I'm not sure, but Demo Ranch has one of these. He has something called a Kunin handkin. It's a 1911 that's chambered in 357 Magnum.
Is it single stack?
It is a single stack mag.
I might have to look into that then.
Yeah, that's something that's nice. The one thing I wish we could have more Magnum semi-automatic pistols, except the thing is the Magnum was designed for revolvers. Which is why you see no such thing as a semi-automatic Smith & Wesson 500.
Yeah, I mean, well, you've got some variants of the Deagle that take Magnum.
Yeah, but the most is 44, and even so, the Deagle is basically anyone who buys one mostly buys it in 50 AE, and that's for a reason.
Right.
Because it's the 50 caliber semi-automatic handgun. But still, the 1911 is expensive. I will admit that. I was looking at the cheap 1911s. The cheapest one's like $500.
Yeah, they tend to be expensive.
Well, the thing is, though, out of it, you get a really good handgun.
You really do. It is one of it. I don't think we can stress that enough here. That is one of the most reliable handguns.
Yeah, the only thing I do wish that if I'm gonna get one for concealed carry, the one thing I will kind of hope I will probably get would be a double action, so I can keep the hammer down with a round in the chamber, but then like I actually have to pull it much harder, so it's not like to go off.
Right.
And another thing is, I'm hoping there is a 1911 out there that has a firing pin safety. So then, because like the 92, the Berettas have this is a firing pin safety, and that makes it like almost impossible to fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and either way, like they say the 1911 has heavy recoil. It really doesn't.
No, it's not too bad.
Like for that matter, your dad's 44 even doesn't have that whole lot of recoil.
No, that doesn't really have recoil either. In fact, a lot of the rifles have higher recoil. Well, obviously, but you know,
Well,
it's
it
not.
really depends. I feel like AK might have harder recoil because of the fact that I honestly feel like it using this like the steel or wood stock is a harder hit. Even
Yeah,
it doesn't have a lot of recoil, but still like an AR-15. Even if it was chambered and say that 7.62 by 39, it probably wouldn't feel as much recoil. I think it's partly because of stock.
right.
And before we forget, we need to talk about the double barrel 1911.
Oh, right. That
Some
thing, that
some
monstrosity.
some company decided to take two 1911s like and just literally just welded them together. And there you go, 19.
Hey guys, I've got this great idea.
The biggest thing though is the 1911 normally has the ejection port on the right side. When it's a double barrel, the second one does have it on the left
Both.
side. And the biggest thing I think a lot of people complain about is the magazines that it comes with, where it's only hooked up together on the bottom. It's not really connected on top, so it's very flimsy in that sort of way. And yeah, it takes a little bit to get it up into the mag well.
Yeah, and normally with semi-automatics, usually you can, with enough practice, you can reload pretty quickly. But the fact that there's two there just makes it harder, and you have to pay attention more to,
Yeah,
how you're putting the mag in.
yeah.
Plus, having two magazines is kind of defeats the whole purpose of a single stack magazine in the first place. So
Yeah, but the thing is, it's honestly a fun gun. But it's also another
Oh,
reason why
yeah.
I prefer if I'm going to get a double barrel, I'd rather get the DBR Snake, because I think it can either accept two individual AR-15 mags, or you can get like connected, but they're connected more in the center, so they're much more rigid at the top.
right.
It's not as hard. I feel like though the slide release could use a little bit of extension on it, because like you don't have to shift your thumb.
I'm sorry for the snake. For the snake, is there like two triggers? Can you
Yeah, it's
fire
got
one
two
barrel at a
triggers.
time?
It's got two triggers.
Yeah, I would probably do just a standard AR magazine on each side, just so that I can reload one side and shoot from the other if I need to.
Yeah. Well, actually, if I'm correct, you said you never fired a 1911 before.
No, I haven't.
Okay, you're missing out, because
I know, I know, I want to.
It's fun, but still. And when I heard another different podcast, I was surprised to find out that the Luger was one of the competing handguns, because
Yeah, so was I.
it's a fun gun. It's a fun gun, but the thing is, in battle, it's hard to aim down the sights, pull the trigger, and then a hunk of metal comes flying towards your face. It's the action, but still, nonetheless, it's not. Some people say it's extremely reliable, and some people say it's unreliable as can be.
Yeah. Well, I think that even if it is reliable, I still don't think it could be up the 1911 on this one, just because of one, the action is,
Yeah.
like you said, with the whole sights thing. The action is not the best for aiming. Does it have a single stack magazine too?
Yeah, it does.
Right. So, I guess it can be almost as compact as the 1911, but
Well, the 1911 is basically slim though. The Luger is slim at the bottom, and then it's got like a brick for a top for
Yeah.
the top. The thing I don't like about the 1911 though is its limited magazine capacity. You can get one with like an 8-round magazine and plus one at the chamber, but then it's just like that little bit longer could be a nuisance when concealed carrying.
I'm sorry, that entire thing just cut out.
That's what I was expecting. What I said basically was that I don't like the limited size of the 1911's mag. That's the only thing I don't like about it.
But hey, at least it's not a brick on the top and bottom like a Glock.
You have a point there. I will say though, companies have been innovative with Glock and the fact that you can shove one into an extended barrel and stock and basically make it a submachine gun. I've yet to see someone do that with a 1911, at least reliably.
Alright, Ben, you're in welding, right?
Yeah?
I think you know where I'm going with this.
Here's the big issue though. I can't. The thing is, most people who make a submachine gun frame for another gun, it's actually most of the time made out of like plastics and other stuff. Basically they out of everything. Second of all, if you want a submachine gun 1911, it's called a Thompson.
Yeah, pretty much.
The Thompson or the grease gun, one of those two. You can choose whichever one you want, but
yeah.
I will say though,
or you could just weld a stock onto a 1911.
That's not how it works. Plus,
Anyway.
I think if you're gonna have a stock, it needs to be like a overhead frame. Because if you weld it right onto the hand grip, then it might get in the way of the grip safety.
Well, you can do that kind of thumb hole stock thing where it still leaves space for the slide to come back, but it doesn't come out of just the bottom there.
Yeah. I can kind of see what you mean.
Yeah, or just like you said, you can grab a Thompson or a grease gun.
Honestly, if you ever I have someone in my troop owns a replica of a Thompson. It is the 1928, so the one with the drum mag. If you ever want to fire one of those, just it is extremely
there are
heavy.
Two. Oh yeah, they are. There are two with drum mags, right? The 21 and the 28.
No, the 1928 is the original one. I think, and then the 1928 continued to be in production too, basically up to World War II. Once World War II started around, I think they came out with the M1.
No, there's a 1921 version too.
Oh. I basically I only differentiate the two, but one can use the drum mag, one cannot.
Yeah, I do. Obviously the M1 can't. Also, the M1 doesn't have the. It's got the bolt handle on the side.
Yeah.
Rather than the top, and the back sight. If you look at the housing for it, it's triangular on the M1.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean now.
And the 21 and the 28 are pretty much identical, except the 28 has a built-in compensator on the front. So
yeah, that was that thing. You probably needed it.
yeah, if we're being honest, you probably did.
Yeah, but that actually reminds me. Do you like guns with a faster fire or a slower fire? Because I will admit, the MG42 sounds horrifying at 1,200 rounds a minute, but at the same time, there's something about a slow thud that just is so much more. I don't know. I like it better.
Yeah, the slow firing machine guns have that sound, they just sound powerful. Yeah. Well, the faster firing ones, MG P90. Yeah. That P90's fire fast, but it's a little 9mm. Or it is 9mm,
actually,
right?
P90 isn't even 9mm. It's just It's a 5.7.
Oh, really?
It's a 5.7mm round, which is
why. But if it's fully automatic, you can fire it fast, but it doesn't sound powerful. But
yeah,
there is. Good.
Yeah, it really depends on the gun though, because a slow firing one just sounds powerful. an MG42. Have you heard those before? Those sound terrifying.
Yeah, they do.
And the U.S. has in its arsenal a GAU something where it's a 50 cal that fires as fast as an MG42. That's like taking like two of the worst things ever and just combining it into one. 50 cal that fires 1,200 rounds a minute.
Yeah. Something like the MG42 and the GAU-8 Avenger are just the they're the complete manifestation of the opposite of what we're saying. Like, normally, if it fires slower, it sounds more powerful, but a GAU-8 is just powerful, period.
Yeah, because just imagine you're a soldier on the ground and then out of nowhere you just hear brrr, and you're like, oh.
Well, it depends on what side you're on. If you're American, then you and the other guys will probably start cheering. But if you're on the other side, you start praying, boy.
Let's go 50 horsepower. Follow the path, follow the path.